Every human being reaches a moment that demands change when the weight you're carrying is no longer coming from what's in front of you, but from what's behind you. And most people don't realize this. They think they're tired because life is hard. They think they're stuck because the world is unfair. But the truth is far more confronting. You're exhausted because you're dragging yesterday into today. You're stuck because you're still living in a story that already ended. Right now, as you're listening to me, there is something in your past that still has a grip on you, a moment, a failure, a betrayal, a decision you regret, a version of yourself you're ashamed of. And every time you try to move forward, it pulls you back just enough to keep you from breaking through. You don't see it as a chain, but it is. You don't hear it as a voice, but it's there, whispering who you used to be, reminding you of what went wrong, replaying scenes that no longer exist except in your mind. Let me ask you something that might shake you up. How long are you going to punish yourself for something that already happened? How long are you going to let a moment in time define a lifetime of potential? Because that's what happens when you refuse to release what's behind you. You turn memory into identity. You turn experience into limitation. You turn pain into a prison. Your past was a teacher, not a life sentence. It was a chapter, not the whole book. But if you keep rereading it, you'll never discover what's written next. And here's the hardest truth for most people to accept. Holding on feels safer than letting go. Pain becomes familiar. Struggle becomes predictable. And the unknown ahead feels more terrifying than the suffering you already understand. So you cling to what hurt you because at least you know it. But growth has never lived in comfort. Transformation has never come from staying attached to what's familiar. Every breakthrough in your life has come from a moment when you decided, consciously or unconsciously, that what you wanted was stronger than what you feared. And right now, the decision in front of you is simple, but it's not easy. Are you going to keep carrying the weight, or are you finally going to put it down? Releasing what's behind you does not mean denying it happened. It does not mean pretending it didn't matter. It means you stop allowing it to control who you are today. It means you stop bleeding on moments that never cut you. It means you take the wisdom and leave the wound. You extract the lesson without reliving the pain. You see, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a memory and a reality. When you replay the past, your body relives it. Your emotions refire. Your chemistry shifts, and suddenly you're back there again, even though your life has moved on. That's why unresolved pain drains your energy. That's why you feel heavy without knowing why. You're living in two timelines at once. And here's the most empowering truth I can give you. You don't need more time to heal. You need a new decision. Healing accelerates the moment you decide that your future deserves more attention than your past. The moment you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, how is this shaping me? Everything changes because power lives in meaning, not in events. The strongest people in the world are not those who never fell. They are the ones who refuse to stay down. They are the ones who learn to walk forward without dragging their history behind them. They learn that forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for freedom. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is strength with direction. You were not born to carry guilt forever. You were not designed to relive pain endlessly. You were built to adapt, to grow, to evolve. And every cell in your body is wired for forward motion. The only thing stopping that motion is the story you keep telling yourself about who you were. So right now, I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself standing on a road. Behind you are all the moments that shaped you. The good, the bad, the painful, the beautiful. Ahead of you is everything you haven't become yet. And in your hands are the bags you've been carrying. Expectations, regrets, old labels, old wounds. You can keep holding them or you can set them down. No one else can make that choice for you. The moment you release what's behind you, you reclaim your energy. Your focus sharpens. Your vision expands. And suddenly the future doesn't feel so heavy because you're no longer walking toward it alone with the weight of yesterday on your back. You walk lighter, stronger, clearer. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not when it feels comfortable, now. Decide that the past will no longer be the place you live. It will be the place you learned. And as you step forward, not dragging, not resisting, but releasing, you'll discover something powerful. You were never stuck. You were just holding on. Most people are living as if a moment from their past has the authority to dictate the rest of their life. One mistake becomes an identity. One failure becomes a label. One painful experience becomes a permanent verdict, and they don't even realize when it happened. It happened the moment they stopped seeing the past as something that happened to them and started seeing it as something that defines them. Your past was never meant to be a life sentence. It was meant to be an education. Every experience you've been through, especially the painful ones, came with information. It came with feedback. It came with insight about who you are, what matters to you, what you will tolerate, and what you will no longer accept. But when you turn that experience into a prison instead of a classroom, you trap yourself. You start making decisions based on who you were instead of who you're becoming. You shrink your standards. You limit your expectations. You play small not because you lack ability, but because you're afraid of reliving old pain. Pain is only permanent when you refuse to learn from it. The moment you extract the lesson, the pain loses its power. But if you keep replaying the memory without changing its meaning, you relive the suffering over and over again. You keep asking why instead of asking how. How did this shape me? How did this strengthen me? How did this wake me up? Meaning is what transforms pain into power. Think about this for a moment. If your past truly defined you, you would have no capacity to change. Growth would be impossible. Reinvention would be a lie. Yet every day, human beings prove the opposite. People rise from addiction, loss, betrayal, poverty, failure, and heartbreak to build extraordinary lives. Not because their past was easier, but because they refused to let it become a sentence. They chose to turn scars into wisdom instead of excuses. The truth is, your past can only control you if you keep visiting it emotionally. Your body doesn't know the difference between something happening now and something vividly remembered. When you replay old moments with emotion, your nervous system reacts as if it's happening again. Your chemistry shifts. Your posture changes. Your energy drops. And then you wonder why you feel unmotivated, disconnected, or stuck. You're not stuck in life. You're stuck in a memory. A life sentence is imposed from the outside. A lesson is claimed from within. No one is forcing you to keep punishing yourself. No one is demanding that you stay loyal to an old story. That loyalty is self-imposed. And the moment you realize that, you regain your power. Because if you created the meaning once, you can create a new one now. You are not the worst thing you ever did. You are not the worst thing that ever happened to you. You are not the opinions people formed about you at your lowest point. Those were moments. Those were chapters. They were necessary for growth, but they were never meant to be permanent residents. The strongest people are not those who avoided pain. They are the ones who refuse to let pain decide their future. Your past gave you awareness. It showed you what doesn't work. It showed you where you compromised yourself. It showed you where you ignored your instincts. It showed you where you need stronger boundaries, higher standards, deeper self-respect. That information is priceless. But once you've learned it, carrying the emotional weight serves no purpose. There is a difference between responsibility and self-punishment. Responsibility says, I own what happened and I choose differently now. Self-punishment says, I will never let myself move on. One creates growth, the other creates stagnation. And stagnation slowly erodes confidence, energy, and belief. When you stop seeing your past as a sentence and start seeing it as training, everything changes. You walk differently, you speak differently, you expect more from yourself. You stop apologizing for wanting more out of life. You stop asking for permission to evolve. You stop living as if you need to pay forever for a moment that already passed. You don't move forward by forgetting, you move forward by integrating. You take the lesson, you upgrade your standards, and you release the emotional charge. You let the past inform you, not imprison you. Because the only true sentence is the one you keep enforcing long after the lesson has been learned. Most people think freedom comes from changing their circumstances. They believe if the relationship changes, if the money improves, if the past hadn't happened, then they'd finally feel free. But freedom has never been about what happens around you. Freedom is about what you refuse to carry inside you. The moment you understand this, everything shifts. Because the real prison was never the situation. It was the attachment. Letting go is the gateway to personal freedom because attachment is what drains your life force. Attachment to old pain, attachment to resentment, attachment to identity, attachment to how things should have been. And every attachment comes with a cost. It costs you energy. It costs you clarity. It costs you presence. You can't be fully here if part of you is still there. People say they want peace, but they keep gripping the very thing that steals it. They say they want growth, but they cling to stories that justify staying the same. Letting go feels threatening because it removes the excuse. When you release the past, you also release the reason you've been holding yourself back. And for many people, that's terrifying, because then you're left with your potential staring back at you, asking for responsibility. Freedom doesn't mean what happened didn't matter. It means it no longer controls your emotional state. It means you don't hand your power to memories. It means you stop needing the past to be different in order for you to be okay now. That is real freedom. And it begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. Every time you resist what already happened, you suffer. Not because the event is still hurting you, but because you're trying to rewrite something that can't be changed. Resistance locks you in place. Acceptance unlocks motion. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is giving yourself back your energy. Think about how much of your mental space is occupied by things that no longer exist. Conversations you wish went differently. Choices you replay. People who are no longer in your life. That mental noise becomes emotional weight. And that weight slows everything down. Your focus, your creativity, your courage. You're trying to move forward while carrying furniture from a house you don't live in anymore. Freedom arrives when you decide that peace is more valuable than being right. When you decide that your future deserves more loyalty than your past. When you stop proving how much you were hurt and start proving how deeply you can live. Letting go is not an event, it's a practice. A daily decision to stop reopening wounds that have already taught you what they needed to teach. The ego loves to hold on. It feeds on stories of injustice and identity. It says, if I let this go, who will I be? But the truth is, who you become after letting go is always more powerful than who you were while holding on. You don't lose yourself when you release the past. You reclaim yourself. Personal freedom is emotional independence. It's the ability to choose your response regardless of what happened before. It's waking up without yesterday dictating your mood. It's walking into new opportunities without old fears speaking for you. And that kind of freedom is not given. It's claimed. Letting go requires courage because it asks you to step into uncertainty without armor. But that armor was heavy. It protected you once, but now it's limiting your movement. You don't heal by staying guarded forever. You heal by realizing you're strong enough to live open again. There is a version of you on the other side of letting go that feels lighter, clearer, more alive. That version doesn't need closure from others, doesn't need apologies to move on, doesn't need permission to be free. That version understands that closure is a decis, ion, not an agreement. You don't let go all at once. You let go layer by layer, thought by thought. Reaction by reaction. Each time you choose not to relive the past, you loosen its grip. Each time you bring yourself back to the present, you strengthen your freedom. Each time you stop identifying with pain, you expand your capacity for joy. The gateway is narrow because most people are afraid to walk through it. On one side is familiarity, even if it hurts. On the other side is freedom, even if it's unknown. Letting go is the step between the two. And once you step through, you realize the cage door was never locked. You were just holding it shut.